This is the sound of a quiet room. This is the sound of a respectful, interested room full of residents and neighbors that care about their neighborhood, that care about the future of this city, and we are so glad to have you here today. I know there's a lot of different opinions in the room and a lot of different experiences, and that's why we do public consultation, is because we want to hear from you. I'm the public consultation coordinator for this project. I'm not a transportation engineer. I'm not an expert in those things. I'm just the guy that helps you get in the room to be heard by the wonderful staff that are working to try to make Toronto streets as safe as possible. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you for your patience. This room is hot. We've got some ice water in the front. If you need to step out, please do that. Let's watch out for each other. If anyone looks like they're getting a little heat exhausted, offer them some water. And like I said, don't worry about stepping out if you need to. All the materials that you see around the room and the presentation we're doing today, it's all online. And we can follow up with you if you need to. If you can't be here tonight because it's not quite comfortable for you, we'll follow up with you directly. Just give us a call or an email. With all that, I'd like to get started with our land acknowledgement. I acknowledge the land I am on today is a traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. I also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 14, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. But Toronto is built on sacred land that is part of an agreement between Indigenous peoples and then extended to allied nations to peacefully and respectfully care for it. City of Toronto, we also do an African ancestral acknowledgement. Though I am not a person of African descent, I am committed to continually acting in support of and solidarity with Black communities, seeking freedom and reparative justice in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery that continues to impact Black Canadians and Black communities in Canada. As part of this commitment, I would also like to acknowledge that not all people came to these lands as migrants and settlers. Specifically, I wish to acknowledge those of us who came here involuntarily, particularly those brought to these lands as a result of transatlantic slave trade and slavery. In support of the City of Toronto's ongoing efforts to confront anti-Black racism, I pay tribute to those ancestors of African origin and descent. So, for meetings like this, we have a safe and respectful meeting conduct. We have a code of conduct at the door, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with this because we're all good Canadians here. It's about being respectful. I'll be through. City of Toronto is committed to conducting events and meetings in a safe and respectful environment for all participants and staff. As a participant, you agree to abide by the City of Toronto's human rights and anti-harassment discrimination policy and hate activity policy. The following will not be tolerated and may result in being expelled: coarse language, aggressive, threatening, or intimidating behavior, any harassment, discrimination, and hate activity. And I am not worried about that because we have fantastic people in this room today. We have a good chance to speak to many of you in the back already, and we're looking forward to hearing more from so many of you. We've got lots of staff here that are very interested in understanding where your experience is and your thoughts on this project. So, talking about staff, from Transportation Services, you can stand up. We've got Becky Katz, the Manager of Cycling and Pedestrian Projects, and Kyle Battalion, Senior Project Manager, Cycling and Pedestrian Projects. Both of them have been leading this project. Robin Shilett, Program Manager for the Public Consultation Unit. And myself, I'm Jason Dyksmoon, with the Senior Coordinator for doing public consultation on this project. Also, remind you if you could silence your phones or take it outside if you need to during a presentation. So, here's our agenda. The welcome and overview is just completed. We may have some opening, actually we'll jump, we're going to probably skip the opening remarks and do that later, but we will jump into our project presentation. It's pretty short. It's about half of the panels that you see here tonight, and like I said, all those panels are already on the website as a PDF and available for you to review. And following that, we're going to do a question and comments where we'll take this microphone, we'll put it to the side, and invite you to line up to speak at the microphone. If you are unable to make your way to the microphone, we can bring one to you, just put up your hand. But to make it as efficient as possible, if you can stand at the microphone, we'd appreciate you do that. And we'll take short comments and questions. There's so many people here today. This microphone only has one person talking at a time. So after that Q&A, we're going to go back to that drop-in format where the 15 staff that are here with clipboards can have one-on-one conversations with you at the maps, at the panels, and try to hear from as many people as possible. We also have our online consultation. There's a survey. We've already had 1,000 people respond, and I'm sure many of you already have. And if you haven't already, please get a chance to do that when you get home. So with all that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle with a short presentation. And again, thank you for being here, and look forward to hearing your questions after the presentation.
What? Are you taking a picture?
No, video.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? Okay, great. My name is Kyle Italian. I'm a senior project manager with the City Cycling and Pedestrian Projects Unit. I want to thank you all for coming out this evening. I know it's very hot. I know not everyone has seats. Thank you so much for coming. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to hear from everyone, to hear public input about what you like and what you might dislike about Danforth, KINGSTON, and Birchmount. It's also an opportunity for transportation services to introduce everyone to the Complete Streets project. We have compiled a few slides here that I think will help facilitate the conversations that we're going to have this evening. As Jason mentioned, any slides that I'm presenting are just sort of a small fraction of the information that we have available. Any slides that you see up here are just duplicates of some of the panels around the room this evening. So if you see anything on the screen that you're like, I want more time with that, or it requires additional context, just know that after we run this presentation, we can explore these panels at your leisure. Also, please feel free to flag me down or any of the city staff down. We'll be happy to have a conversation.
Just slow down.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Thank you. I'm going to start with a quick project background, so just talking about some of the work that's already been on Danforth to date. In 2020, City Council directed Transportation Services to undertake a pilot project. That's the Destination Danforth project between Broadview and Dawes. That was intended to be a pilot project, but in the following year, City Council actually approved that as a permanent installation. At the same time, they directed our unit again to expand.
There's seating there.
Hello? In that same year, they directed us to extend some of those complete street improvements east towards Victoria Park. Also in that same year, City Council authorized a new cycling network implementation plan, and that includes the project that we're all here to talk about tonight, which is the Danforth Kingston Complete Streets. I want to quickly mention that our project corridor is part of a critical cycling network. It has been flagged as a major citywide cycling route for cyclists traveling east-west through our city. Here's a quick summary of our design proposal. So in short, what we're interested in doing is making the project corridor safer and more inviting for all road users. That includes pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. At a very high level, we are considering things like lane reconfiguration, new cycle tracks, and safety improvements. I want to mention that the designs that are sort of on the boards this evening are just meant to facilitate conversation, to get meaningful feedback from the public. They are not meant to be taken as final designs or ready for implementation. They are really just very early in our design and consultation process. Our project limits are as follows. They include Danforth between Victoria Park and the Merge, Kingston between the Merge and Scarborough Golf Club Road, and a small portion of Birchmount south of Danforth Avenue to the Waterfront Trail connection. There is a portion in the Kingston segment that the city has flagged for road resurfacing. So what that means is the existing condition of the road requires road resurfacing, so the surface will be removed and repaved with new asphalt. and that is expected to happen between St. Clair and Markham Road. The majority of our project is expected to be delivered without major road reconstruction. So what that means is the proposal or the design considerations that we are showing this evening are meant to be implemented with flexible materials. That includes things like bollards, line painting, precast curbs, or even signage. These are typically things that can be mounted to existing surfaces. However, for the portion of our project in which we have road resurfacing, there is a more significant opportunity to make changes to the hardscape. So by piggybacking off of the civil work that is required for road resurfacing, we can make changes to things like the sidewalk, the curb, or even transit platforms. This is a really exciting opportunity for transportation services because road resurfacing typically only happens once every 25 years. So this is a real chance for us to look at the future, see what we might do to future-proof, and also make the road safer. Thank you. As you walk around the room, you will see panels about existing conditions. We underwent an existing conditions analysis that revealed sort of three major themes. They include safety, transit and mobility, and curbside utilization. For our safety analysis, we really found that collisions are happening within this corridor at a higher frequency than when compared to the rest of the city of Toronto. We also found that speeding is an issue. For transit and mobility, we really looked at existing ridership and demand for ridership. We found that Kingston, specifically between Midland and Eglinton, ridership is very high. This is largely due to its adjacency to Morgan Station. And lastly, for curbside utilization, we really looked at the parking that is available on all three streets and found that while there are a lot of spaces available across the entire project corridor, not all of these spaces are being used. That's really important for us to understand as we might consider what some of that space might be reallocated for, especially knowing what we know about the demand for transit and the need for safer roads. I have a slide here just about our complete street approach to design. So the City of Toronto's Complete Street Guidelines is a document that really envisions streets as places for people, places for prosperity. So what that means is important assets to support local businesses. This is a framework that we've adopted as a unit because we found that it has been helpful in addressing the three specific concerns for Danforth Kingston, that being safety, transit and mobility, and road space utilization. We have a quick slide here about our approach to traffic analysis. So we do have a traffic model. This has been informed by existing conditions data. This really helps us as a unit understand what some of the traffic impacts there may be as we consider some of the changes that are being proposed around the room. Once we have everyone's feedback, once we finish this round of consultation, we will be able to create another traffic model that represents the future condition of the road, and we will run an analysis on that. As part of our second round of consultation, we will share that analysis again with the public, and again, open that up for public input. We will be able to make changes to the design based on some of that analysis and some of that input. Again, we are still very early on in our design process. For the purposes of consultation, we've divided up the project corridor into several segments. They are numbered from west to east. So for each of these segments, you will see a corresponding design on a board around the room. That board will have a cross-section of the existing condition at the top, and then a cross-section of the proposed condition at the bottom, so you can compare and contrast some of these design options. I will note that for Kingston Road, there are two options provided. So when you see that, there will be an option 1 Kingston Road and option 2 Kingston Road. And my last slide here is quickly about the project timeline. In 2023, when we began this project, we began early engagement. That included meeting with interested community groups and also circulating and tabulating the results of a business delivery and loading survey. to help us better understand demand for loading in the corridor. We then entered a phase of technical design in which we prepared the work that is being presented to you this evening. This event is our last event in a session of 3 different events as part of phase 1. We're very interested again in hearing your feedback. We will take that feedback and enter a phase of detailed design in which we will prepare a recommended design solution as well as undergo that traffic analysis that I just mentioned. And then we will share that again as part of our phase 2, which is expected to happen in fall 2024. So with that, I will hand it back off to Jason and I think Councilor Campbell to give some remarks.
So thank you very much, Kyle. A short round of applause. And with that, opening remarks from Councillor Danforth, Scarborough Southwest.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out in the summer days. A beautiful day. You could be in a lot of different places by the bluffs, perhaps, but coming out for community engagement is very so important. And I know many couldn't come out because of a whole host of events happening, graduations. I just here, fresh from 8 graduations starting at 2:30. So it's so good to be in community, and I know as our community we're very, very respectful to each other, unlike Etobicoke, right? So I know everyone here is here to have their voice heard, and then of course in a very respectful manner, regardless of which position you come from, right? And so I know we're all going to, have that tone and that respect as we engage. Secondly, the context, I think Kyle did a great job showing the context. The decision for this consultation was made by the previous administrative term that spelled out a series of consultations, and this is an opportunity for the city, as well as myself as councillor, to hear the different perspectives on a very impactful decision. So that's the context. These decisions to have these consultations were made back in 2022. And I know many of you here have called our office and emailed asking for my position on bike lanes, and of course this is a bigger conversation on complete streets and transit, but I know the big issue for many of you has been the removal of potentially motor vehicle lanes for protected bike lanes. And as I shared in my campaign and in the Star article, my position hasn't changed. I'm in favor of providing protected bike lanes that are not at the expense of motor vehicle lanes at this point, because I think this is a bit of a cultural piece that which we need to grow. And I'm really happy, we had a few back and forth with staff, and I know they have some models that can look at Kingston Road from a different perspective, where we can build protected bike lanes without the removal of vehicle and motor lanes. So I want to, be very clear, because many of you have been asking for that. It's been a tough time getting back to everyone by phone and email, but I wanted everyone to be aware of that. And, for example, today there are a lot of folks who couldn't come out. And I know at my graduations we get some downtime to chat with families, and they share their concerns with me. Of course, they're celebrating their little one, well, not so little anymore, but their child's graduation couldn't come out, but they shared, they've got families of 4 or 5 who rely on the car out of necessity. Public transit is not where it should be. That's decades of successive governments of not investing in transit in Scarborough. And the reality of taking your kid around to, hockey or soccer or cricket practice is challenging, and they need a car to do that, especially with the nature of our economy, etc. And on that note, I do want to, I know staff made good efforts to get today's event out in different languages and different tools of communication, but I do want to acknowledge that the crowd's not representative of Scarborough Southwest in all its diversity, especially racially. So I want to acknowledge that we, as a councillor's office, able to tap into different leaders within the community. I see Shaukat Ali, a leader of the Bengali community out here today. We're able to share with me their concerns and experiences, and because of the language barrier, are not able to attend or have the social capital, as sociologists call it, to come here, engage, and navigate a very complex system. But I do know folks on the Danforth, on the west side, have shared their business struggles with me on how much business they've lost as a result of the Danforth Bike Lanes West. And coupled with that, I know Crossroads, I'm not sure if Tom is here, but I know they've shared with me officially their position and their opposition. So I want to acknowledge that though community engagement is important, sometimes we don't get all the voices, and that's very important. As a city, we have strong commitments to equity and inclusion. Ensuring all voices are heard is central and part of that. So obviously, racially, we don't have the diversity. Class, geography, I can't tell by looking at you, but that's also different aspects of identity we've got to be mindful of as when we engage. So I'll close with, this is not a black and white discussion, no pun intended. This is very complex. It's not for bike lane against bike lane. I think there are different ways that we can look at how we can provide protected bike lanes, not at the expense of vehicle lanes, and how do we grow the culture? And I think that's the biggest piece that I've been in conversation with staff. Personally, my wife and I, ironically, as we got bigger with the kid, we downsized from 2 cars to 1, and we're looking to cycle to work. We're privileged. We live near a subway station. We live close to the Danforth bike lanes, but not everyone has that, especially in terms of the flexibility of our jobs. So I think these are some of the social impacts we've got to be careful of. So I hope I was clear with my position, and I know, for example, tomorrow we're having City Council, and we're going to talk about car share and the ability to look at, when I think families in 1 or 2 cars, there's a 1.5 model that allows families to use maybe bikes and a car share model. So the overall point I want to make, this is an ongoing cultural piece that needs evolution, and I was clear with my position, so in case anyone was seeking that today. And looking forward to this continued engagement. We're seeing a lot of changes coming along Kingston Road, a lot of development, and that of course will impact some of the factors that go into these decisions. So thank you everyone for coming out and engaging with our community. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Councillor. Up next, we'll be doing some questions of clarification, we called it, but it's an opportunity to hear from some of you. And we want to hear from all of you, but we can't do that with microphones, but we can invite some of you to come up to the microphone and ask your questions. So the microphone is right here, and it's working. If you can't make it to the microphone because you're unable to, just put up your hand and we will bring a wireless microphone to you. But other than that, we would ask you to please to line up. I'll let you know. We're asking you to please be brief. Limit yourself to 1 question or comment when called on to speak. We can already see there's a handful of folks, and I'm sure that line will grow. So please be mindful of the people behind you that are also waiting to speak, so we can give them an opportunity. And of course, let's remind again, we're going to be respectful of everyone in the room, of the staff, of the councillor, and I'm not worried about that. Everyone can speak. After the Q&A, we'll do a drop-in format. We'll return to the panels and the maps where we can have one-on-one conversations. And like I said, if you don't get a chance to ask your questions tonight at the microphone, you can ask it one-on-one with staff. Anything else, call us, you can email us, and we're happy to do our best to provide the best answers we can. With that, everybody can come up. You can give your name, but you don't have to. And looking forward to your concise questions.
Get an interview with coming up. I'll get the interview.
Hi, my name is Hannah.
Get an interview with you.
I just wanted to ask what you've been doing in terms of consulting with the youngest members of our community who can't drive. I personally, I already have 1 daughter who has 2 kids in the neighborhood, and I'm really looking forward to my kids being able to independently one day travel in the area. Have my daughter go to her dance class on Kingston Road by herself when she's old enough. And I I'm just wondering what kinds of consultation you've done with the members of our community who are so young that they would not be able to drive, and maybe they would have a special interest in this kind of a project.
Thank you for the question. Consulting with young people. Of course, for children, we would expect their caregivers to be representing their interests tonight and with online consultation. Online, we do capture age so that way we can dive into the opinions of people that are younger and recognizing all different demographics that we can zero in on. And we're also reaching out to the schools that are along the corridor. We've done some already. We can do much more. But recognizing that there is definitely that interest in young people being able to cycle to school and to their local destination safely.
Jason answered it well. I think this is the first phase of consultation, so it's important to remember that. There's opportunity in future phases when we're further along with the design proposal. We'll certainly look at engaging more school kids as a necessary. Thank you. And I also just want to add that we're going to take questions for about half an hour. Okay. And then we'll leave time at the end for people to be able to circulate their report comments. Okay.
Hi, my name is Simon, and I'm concerned about the Cenotaph area where you cross over Kingston Road. You're at an elevation, on Kingston Road that way. Why don't you put a bridge over there and just for pedestrians and ramp it down towards Cenotaph and go the other way towards your side of the Plain Gardens and the existing trail that's there instead of coming down Birchmount Hill, which is right at the front here.
So right now, we just got asked about why are we proposing this connection to the Cenotaph, which is the memorial where Danforth and Kingston merge. So right now, there is a sidewalk on the south side that just ends with no connection. So one purpose is to provide a connection along the existing sidewalk, also to make the Cenotaph accessible year-round safely. There is a couple of large events where they'll stop traffic, have more patrols, and there's a large group, but day-to-day, it also, besides access to the Cenotaph, also provides just north-south general pedestrian connectivity where there is none today. But when we break up, we can talk about specific. I'd love to hear more about your specific design solution. We're not right now considering a bridge because this is a project that does not include major construction.
I'll also just add that this is not a new set of lights for vehicular crossing, it's a pedestrian crossing for somebody with pedestrian access.
Hi, my name is Heather. My concern is just the area from Birchmount Road, from Danforth Avenue to Waterfront Trail. The beginning of Waterfront Trail is actually Fishley Drive. That's a residential street. It's already very busy. There's been a lot of construction because of new builds. There's been a few streets that feed into Fishley Drive. The problem is there's no sidewalks. There's going to be increased pedestrian traffic, or the increased cycling, and it's already busy. We need sidewalks because right at the moment we have no safe place to walk. There's seniors there still, but there's many young families. They're pushing strollers down the street. And we're literally jumping out of the way on traffic that is very fast from Glen Everest to Midland. You see these speed counts. There's no safe place for us to walk. And I'm really afraid that with all the young families moving in with little children, those children are not safe if we don't get sidewalks. Thank you.
Well, with our sidewalk program, I very rarely get to say this, but good news, there are sidewalk plans on Fishley Drive. So after when we break up, I'm happy to discuss the limits of the area you're talking about, because Fishley has different sections, but there is roadwork planned in the near term, and sidewalks are being proposed as part of the street. So I'm happy to provide that information.
Those would be better for offline, as in on the periphery afterwards of the Q&A, or we can follow up an email call. Sir, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity for this forum and for what looks like promising change. I'm a neighbor just to the south of Kingston Road. I hear day and night is rather frightening sometimes at night, and that's just the speeds that cars are going at night. I'm a senior and recently decided that I'm not invincible anymore. I'm not 20. Worse than that, I see my gas driving me. As I'm crossing Kingston Road near my home, I see my gas. And it's crossing at a signalized intersection, and somebody decides to hit me at 75 miles an hour, or kilometers an hour. I see my gas. When I'm walking down my street, there's no sidewalks, and there are cars that are zooming down Kingston, makes it around the corner, a little right-hand turn, and he's down to 60 maybe, and bam, I'm gone. But I hope that with this construction, this is just fantasy and fear of the senior citizen. As a child, a mother, a father, any one of us should have fear crossing Kingston, being close to Kingston. It's dangerous. I know it as a highway. I loved it as a highway in the 70s and 80s. To jump off the 401 and zoom along that highway that was built in the 20s or 30s called Kingston Road. It's a lovely neighborhood, but you can't cross the street. You can't do business on the street and retail because of the construction. That it has to change for today and for tomorrow. Thank you.
My name's Nicole, and I live in this section just off Danforth, between Victoria Park and Danforth. And we have very narrow sidewalks, so while you're getting on sidewalks, maybe we can get something. My question is actually for a counselor. So we have about 6 inches of sidewalk between the road where people go 70 kilometers an hour and children on bikes. And you talk about racialized communities. My community is where the racialized community are, and I think it's a bit tricky to tell who in this room is from what community and what racialized group. But I'm wondering how you're saying that you support additional safety in bike lanes, but without removing car lanes. So in my stretch of where I live, how do you do that?
I guess a couple of things. So, my position is what you stated, but also part of it is also growing the culture. If you could repeat the intersection of the roads you mentioned.
Yeah, I'm from on Danforth, between Victoria Park, Victoria Park, and then Warden.
Right. So
I'm south, on Kimberley.
Yeah, you repeat the question.
Sure. So we have very narrow sidewalks, and then there's cars going 70 kilometers an hour, 80 kilometers an hour. You don't want to get rid of car lanes, but kids are walking right next to a car going 70 kilometers an hour, where the sidewalk's about this big next to the road. How do you do the safety then?
I think that.
So there are a variety of options that can be implemented where there's no motor vehicle removals. Something like a full road reconstruction would be something where perhaps you could capture space, where maybe it's grass boulevard behind the existing sidewalk, or in some sections there's medians that space can be captured. In the current scope of this project, this section of road does not have a road reconstruction, but it is something that we could explore through the project. What are the constraints? Is it fully possible? Is there pinch points? We've done an initial assessment where there are sections that you could maintain all motor vehicle lanes and still fit in active transportation facilities, but there's also sections that you can't. And I think in the second phase of consultation, we're happy to be more explicit about those locations. Yep.
Just one quick addition to the question. I think two quick items. One, that question, application should be standard. We've got a number of streets with the same width and the same traffic flow, so we've got to look at it from a system perspective. And secondly, I think that's a good area perhaps for camera speed enforcement, which I did support in my campaign. So I think that's another strategy to combat that specific problem. I just want to underscore these are very, I think there's complexity to all the different interests at play if we look at business, family size, and but I'll leave it at that, and I think that helps in addition to that.
Hi, I'm Ian. I live just up the street, Birchmount, Danforth. I grew up in Scarborough, family put a car, so I know what that's like. So my question is really one of equity and how equity factors are considered in design and implementation. Here from our councilor, how lucky he is to live very close to those lanes that I unfortunately am 2 kilometers away from. And I've tried biking that with my 9 and 11-year-old, like the area that our previous construction was in. It's popped up. So again, it's a long way for guitar lessons or the burgers, so it's a challenge. So how are those factors considered? You know, car ownership is lower in this area than other places in Toronto. When we're going to visit our friends in East York, family, they have access to it, we don't. So yeah, that's really my question. Equity, and particularly those that don't vote as well. We know a lot of people that who would benefit from this and aren't. There's people that tend to vote, so how are those people supposed to consider in this?
Thank you. So just to repeat, we just had asked how is equity considered in this project? And I would say that equity is not one thing, right? It's not whether or not, I mean, there are core components such as ensuring that we do a great job consulting with not just all of you in the room who were able to come this evening, but children who don't always have a voice in the process, engaging with schools, working with our counselor to engage with communities that he's connected with, business owners, and really trying to have an inclusive process where those who are impacted can have a voice through the process and share what potential impacts. Overall, the city also has an equity strategy. The cycling network plan, which has the Danforth Kingston project within it, the Vision Zero plan, which is the city's goal to reduce fatal collisions to zero, along with our climate strategy, all have equity lenses where they consider the impact of these types of overlapping challenges in our city through an equity lens. And for example, road violence or people who are in collisions, it's much higher proportion are people of color, are older adults. And so all of those types of components are considered in these projects. And a lot of our focus here tonight, and I think it's really shared already from a lot of the one-on-one conversations, whether bikeways are of interest or not, is that people want to see their roads be safer. And I think that is a core equity component that we're exploring tonight. And again, you don't have to put the baby out with the bathwater. There's many different options here. There are different components, and we want to hear your voices through all this process to hear about what are the issues you're having on your street, how can those be addressed, because if you drive every day, I imagine you have concerns today about how the road is operating. If you cycle today, like the last person just spoke, you may also have concerns if you walk. So those are the types of feedback so that we can have a good, strong process and ensure that we have an equitable process.
Good evening. I'm Rob with the Community Bikeways. I'd like to want the Danforth bike lanes to get here tonight. My concern is with the two waterfront segments where a traffic lane is being proposed to be removed eastbound to accommodate bi-directional cycle track. So I was wondering, has the city considered instead widening the existing sidewalk into a multi-use path so that way you don't have to remove the extra traffic lane which Councilor Sandoval brought up?
Yeah, so the question was around bidirectional bikeways. We have two sections along our corridor that have proposed bidirectionals. One of them falls within the resurfacing limits, in which we would be able to consider road reconstruction to accommodate that. Unfortunately, our initial analysis at looking at the existing property line and some of the utilities that are within the streetscape do not allow for enough space to accommodate a bidirectional completely within the boulevard. And for the second section, unfortunately, that is not included as part of the road reconstruction limits, or the road resurfacing limits. But again, I would encourage you to fill out the survey or also place a comment on some of the maps to apply that as either part of our work or future work at transportation services.
Hello, my name is Ron. First, I'd like to just thank you all for the city for what you're doing. And the fact that you're holding so many meetings, seems kind of last minute, but thank you for doing that, and thank you for listening to people. I've been attending all three, and I find it interesting hearing what people from all different meetings have. And they're good, valid issues. And I don't know how to make decisions, which way to fix things. Especially for something like Danforth. It's so narrow that no matter what you do, you're going to disappoint a large part of the population. I don't think there's any solution, apart from maybe do a two-tier, but I don't think that's going to happen. Along the Kingston Road area, it's a wide avenue. And we know that our population is going to be increasing in the area. And the new population they're not all going to drive cars. In fact, probably a small percentage will be able to afford and use a car to commute. So, I'm wondering about a hybrid solution. We've heard that cars are having trouble getting by with the density. We have safety, very real safety issues with parking. We even had someone, a paramedic, say that getting safety, emergency access is a problem. On Kingston Road, it's wide enough. We could do one solution, that's hybrid. The hybrid would be having bus lanes on the red bus lanes in both directions. That solves the bike issue. I've used those red lanes a lot. I feel totally safe. The bus drivers are safe.
So I think your question is using the nature of the Gravitio bus driving lanes also for cycling.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, let's answer that question. We've got a lot of people that want to ask you.
But anyway, it kills two birds.
I hear that question. Go ahead.
So if you've driven on further east of the corridor we're talking tonight, you'll know that there are red bus lanes that also allow people to cycle. I will say that one reason why we do have additional red bus lane recommendations here tonight, but we also don't view red bus lanes as what we call all ages and abilities. So for people who are comfortable riding in a lane with buses, it's a much better experience. But for people with children, less confident cyclists, we have found that they don't provide an environment where all people feel safe and comfortable. But it is something that, thank you for your design idea, and something we can consider moving forward in some sections. But ultimately, installing a red bus lane would actually require a removal of one general purpose motor vehicle lane. So that is an option where we have a red bus lane with a cycle track next to it in part of the Kingston Road corridor.
Hi there, I'm Dan. I live nearby. I walk through today. Sorry. Yes, I'm Dan. I live sidewalks here today, even. But yeah, I bike, I walk, I drive, I take transit in the area, and my question is, what's the holdup? Like, in the recent, yeah, well, it's just in the recent years, it's become unsafe to cycle, it's become unsafe to be a pedestrian. But like the places that I'm going are 500 meters from my front door, yet getting there feels like I'm waiting up. It's getting on a bike share should be an adrenaline rush. Should that be a thrill seeker to get to the market? Like it's just insane that, you know, getting from anywhere in the state with a type of car is so unsafe right now.
I think there's a reverse question that some in the room may feel, which is why the rush? And so, you know, we are managing a large project that is a long corridor, and we want to get these things right. We need to get your insights. We need time to consider various inputs, including technical analysis. So, you know, we are committed to moving through this process at a sufficient pace to consider different options, put together a strategy that balances both the existing needs and the larger needs. So I would say the holdup is that we need to make sure that we have a fair and strong foundation of process to ensure positive outcomes.
Hi, I'm Laurie C. Robertson. I'm a transit advocate. I'm elderly and I'm disabled. Haven't been able to drive in about 5 years now. So I'm basically on the street in my wheelchair or staggering along my walker. In complete opposition to the councillor, I very much want to get rid of as many traffic lines as we possibly can. I want to slow Kingston Road right down. People drive on Kingston Road like they're out of their minds, and I want to see them stick to the speed limit because people actually almost run me over when I'm trying to cross the street. Because God forbid the light might turn and I'm still trying to drag myself across the road. They don't care that I'm there. Being 200 pounds in a steel wheelchair still doesn't make me visible.
As somebody who actually works and uses my bike as a mode of transportation, that's very I'd like to express my support for the proposal, even if it requires movements in car lanes. Council spoke of the need for car lanes so people can take the children to hockey practice, but nobody's suggesting we get rid of all the car lanes. Removing a lane won't prevent you from getting where you need to go. Furthermore, we know that is not what most people are using car lanes for. Most of the cars on the road are a single person in their car driving to the gym or something. In the city's Transform TO Net Zero plan, the city concluded that it needed at least 75% of trips under 5 kilometers to be taken by bike, transit, or walking. We cannot continue to reserve excessive amounts of public space for car traffic at the expense of safe, fast, high-quality walking, cycling, and public transit infrastructure.
My name is Luann. I have concerns if you've driven on Danforth or up Woodbine. It's down in one lane. So not to contradict the young gentleman there, but I think having one lane of traffic is just as dangerous, especially when there is no place to go. If the person in front of you wants to make a left-hand turn and there's no more left-hand turn lane, you're stuck. It can take you 20 minutes to go 4 or 5 blocks on the Danforth and never see one bike. I'm idling, no extension of environment. They're trying to get bike lanes so people will ride their bikes. Better for the environment, yes. But while I'm idling for an extra half an hour to get someplace, I'm really stuck in the middle. I hope when you design this,
also chapel tour. We do have a variety of data sources online if you're interested in the motor vehicle counts, the cycling counts, both in the existing lanes. I also want to be clear that on Kingston Road, there's no proposal here tonight that has one motor vehicle lane. That there is a proposal here tonight that has that on Danforth. So I just want to be clear that there's options, but Kingston Road, the options have always either two or we're keeping 3 motor vehicles.
Hi, my name is Sean. I'm a resident of Scarborough Southwest for 25 years, and several years back, I was cycling along Pharmacy near Danforth Avenue, and I was struck by a taxi and it ride, and if it had gone slightly different, I could have lost my life. I wouldn't be here speaking with you 5 folks today. So these changes are long overdue. The streets are just so dangerous and they need to be redesigned to be made a lot more safely. And yeah, I'd love to spend more time in this great neighborhood here and support the local businesses more, but it's just the hostile environment, the streets, and yeah, I spent a lot of time in Beaches, East York, but the streets are a lot safer there, so yeah, I'd love to support the local businesses more and spend more time here, but the streets need to be made a lot safer. It's long overdue, and I'd like to see these changes made several years back, but there's no better time than today. Let's not delay it, and let's get it done.
So we still got a good sized line. Gentlemen at the back, I think you could be our last question of the night, yep. And let's about another 8 folks. And then we can talk to as many of you as possible at the boards and maps. Okay?
My name is Laura, this is Max, easier from all support. We live together in Oak Ridge, near Pharmacy in Danforth, and just wanted to give our history. So we don't have a car, mostly for financial reasons. It's really a lot cheaper to not have a car, and we're super lucky to live in an area where we have the option to walk around, you can bike, and take transit. That's really the way we get around everywhere. I also bike to work today, so Pharmacy and Danforth all the way to College and Spadina. And the only reason I can do that, in addition to taking transit sometimes, is because there's that great street all the way along. So I'm really appreciative of that, and like I can only do that and like to work because of the complete street. So I'm just thinking of all the opportunities that could open up east or where we live, if that's an option. In terms of businesses, we find ourselves a lot, visiting a lot of businesses more on the Danforth, like west of us. And I haven't really visited east on Kingston much at all because it's not safe. Like I'm a pretty experienced cyclist, Max isn't. He's kind of nervous to go east and like visit the businesses along Kingston. So that's just another.
My name is Brian, I live in Westside. Just from Danforth, so I cross Kingston Road. I cross Kingston Road on a regular basis, probably 2 or 3 times a day, going to shops and whatnot. It is every time I do it, I feel like I'm taking my driving pants. It is the speeds that people are driving at the top of quite a bit are excessive, to say the least. So a lot of consider with the safety issue, and obviously that's paramount. One of the questions I have though is that in examining this, has there been any economic analysis around what the potential could be for local businesses along that stretch? I've never been anywhere where a 6-lane highway and a private commercial sector cool.
So we have not completed an economic analysis of this specific corridor. We have done economic analysis on other prospects, and there are generalized research. Most of that research shows that motor vehicle lane reduction has a net, there's many other larger economic impacts, and that narrowing it down to roadway changes can be very challenging. I would say it's a summary of some of those research, but happy to dive into that question in more detail at the end.
Just wanted to make a quick addition to your, so we're seeing a lot of developments that we're going to Kingston 27-story, so you put 11-story, and where I've come in the process of the development, our office has been pushing very hard for as much commercial retail and water as possible, and that's going to help facilitate the increased economic activity. Not completely relevant, but I thought you'd be interested in that.
Good evening, my name is Sylvie. My understanding is that the city has a lot of experience with complete streets. To the west of us, somebody to the north of us, and then the red HOD lanes. I'd like to understand what has been the experience between what was thought would happen in terms of how fast the car were rolling, in terms of development for businesses or lack thereof, all of that. So what has been the experience between what was thought, so the research, and what actually has happened? And did you take that into account in order to propose what you're proposing today? Thank you.
Thank you. So I can speak from the past 5 years. I joined the city in September 2019. And we have implemented a number of similar projects, although every corridor has their own unique elements. And I would say that generally our traffic analysis and overarching impacts have been aligned with what we have shared through the public consultation process. That typically in these projects where there's a motor vehicle lane, there is some level of impact to motor vehicle traffic, but not to a level that is catastrophic or very, very significant. And that generally we've seen about a 30% decrease in all collision types. And we see increases in walking and cycling. There is a lot of research on the website, but what I will say is that often when we implement projects, there are needs for tweaks after a project is installed. That there are parking and loading issues that come up after a project is installed. There are turning issues after a project is installed. And our unit and transportation services at large remains committed to projects even post installation. We have some staff right now who are working on the Danforth bikeways west of Victoria Park now to make additional tweaks based on business needs such as loading, turning issues at Main. So that is a commitment that even if there is an unintended consequence, that we stay committed to the project to make adjustments to ease any challenges and changes. But also happy to share data from other projects if that's of interest to those in the room.
My name is David, and I'm an educator at John Wesley Public School, just on Midland, just north of Kingston Road. I'm looking at the map that was over there, and I see there's a dotted line for study and design on Birchmount, but there isn't one on Midland. And perhaps I'm mistaken, but I thought I saw one on an earlier version. I'd love to know why there has been no study or design or conversation behind having any sort of consideration for Midland, as our school has served over 500 students. We have a bike club that's very passionate about cycling, but currently it's a very difficult place to cycle and feel safe.
You are very correct that the last cycling network near-term plan had Midland and Brimley as a study, and the recently proposed one has Brimley. A lot of the rationale is based on past work and approvals on Midland. There was a larger construction that was completed without bikeways, eliminating the potential to bundle. But I'm happy to talk in more detail about the school and any other projects that we have in the near term in the area.
Hi, thank you. I'm Jess. I'm with a group called Friends and Families for Safe Streets. We're a group of people whose loved ones were killed in preventable crashes, and people like me who survived the crash with severe life-altering injuries. My spine was broken by a reckless motorist in 2015 on a high-speed, car-centric road just like Kingston. And I want to talk about the causal relationship between road design and collisions that kill people. When you have roads that are designed with only lanes for cars, no infrastructure for anybody who's not in a car, no barriers between people outside of cars and the car traffic, that guarantees that people will be severely injured and killed in collisions. The only way cities around the world have succeeded at eliminating death and severe injury on their streets is by redesigning streets. If you do not support safe street design, what you are actually supporting, whether you know it or not, is more people, more loved ones being killed and devastated. Vision Zero is a choice. It's a bold choice. It's choosing safety ahead of driving convenience. And if you could understand and be in my shoes and the shoes of my colleagues whose loved ones are killed, are gone forever and never coming home, I hope that you would choose safety over driving convenience too. I would spend the rest of my life in a traffic jam to bring back the loved ones of all of my friends.
Thank you for your work on this project so far. I'm reminded looking at this map that every white line you see on the map is a choice for a driver to take a safe way to report wherever they're going, whereas the network of cyclists remains in the fits and starts and patches that prevents us from getting to the places we want to go. Speaking perhaps as the youngest quartile member of this room, a lack of a network isn't just a safety issue, but the lack of safety is a lack of choice for young people all over the city. I spent perhaps up until 8th or 9th grade being driven everywhere. I lived in the culture that Councillor spoke of. You can go to the Baptist, you can go to places we need to go, but not having a choice to go anywhere or seek independence on my own. So a cycling network asking for one lane of traffic to be removed on one of those white lines is a sacrifice I believe the community should be willing to make for choices and safety for people of all ages. Thank you.
Coming back to the bus lanes that you created that was created on the margin, they can control way past the one side. So you have these bottlenecks now where the traffic is reduced, trying to through these lights and build. It takes forever to build it on Kingston Road. I drop my son to school every morning. I'm sure in this day and age we can control the traffic lights, keep the traffic rolling. You can even reduce the traffic speed to 40 kilometers an hour. So that you keep the traffic rolling, which accommodates everybody's safety concerns. You know, it's like, come on, the traffic lights are in your control, and we can keep the traffic rolling instead of having this congestion of stopping every 100 yards for a traffic light sitting there, and that's in our carbon footprint, so I'm significantly this stuff. So.
Yeah, thank you. And traffic signal timing and operations is part of the scope of this project throughout the whole corridor. I had a great discussion with somebody about Victoria Park and Danforth and the need for advanced lefts on Victoria Park. So that is why we're here tonight. So it's a great segue to bring up so that we can have those smaller discussions about specific signals that you're concerned about, any questions you have on the proposal, and I'm doing Jason's job, so I'm going to hand it back to him.
So thank you very much. You know what? Let's do a round of applause for the people that came to the microphone. It's not easy. Doing public speaking, most people are terrified of it. So thank you to everyone that made the effort to do that tonight. To everyone else, now it's your opportunity to be heard. Doing one-on-one conversations. So we're going to break into the drop-in format where you can have conversations. So first, before you move, we're going to move some of the chairs in, but if you want to sit, go ahead and sit. We're not going to try to clear out the chairs too much, and we are going to get the tables and pull them away from the boards. So we'll take off maybe 2 rows of chairs on that side, making space, all stacked, and we are going to be ending at